Today, I have the great pleasure speaking with Samme Allen, the founder and CEO of ConferenceEmcees. Samme has been in the industry for many years, and she has a fantastic and inspiring story to share with us today. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today, I must say I have been patient because besides being known as the queen of the world, I have the amazing pleasure of speaking with the founder and CEO of ConferenceEmcees.com, the one and only Samme Allen. Samme, how are you?
I am so much better for talking to you, and just still apologizing that I've been trying to get on since episode 1, Eric, to be honest with you. But I'm okay with 108. I'll take that. I'll take it.
I mean, maybe a little bit more in between, but no, Samme, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful, and I'm glad we can be talking with each other. We know each other for years. You're an amazing person. You're also a very inspiring person. Your story is fascinating, and I can wait for you to share with everyone. But before we get into what you're doing today, what is Samme's story?
Gosh, it's really a privilege to actually, in all seriousness, to be talking with you. And certainly after the last few years and being inspired by so many other people on this podcast. I hate the phrase, when people say industry veteran, it kind of makes you just feel like you've either been in the wars, which I suppose we all have, or you're really, really old. But I have been an event professional, a meetings professional, for the majority of my career. My background is sales. My father is the best salesperson in the world, and he gave that honor to me as a semi-good sales professional as well. Like so many others in the meetings and events world, I fell into events. I was living in Hong Kong, working for a publishing company, basically trying to get a visa to stay in the country. That seems to be the story of my life. We'll talk about that later. And they asked whether I would work with one of their clients, which was the Cable and Satellite Broadcasting Association of Asia. They wanted to run a charity event and a golf day and invite a whole bunch of stakeholders. So I said, how difficult can that be? And that was the rude awakening to being in the event industry. So yeah, I started as an event planner out there. Then we worked with other clients. We worked out we could do it quite well. We had a really great team. We worked with the British Chamber of Commerce in China and created some of their events. And then moving back to the UK, sort of dabbled around in the periphery of the events world. I still didn't know it was an industry or a thing, probably until I moved to London around sort of 2008, and I wanted to get more into events, but the recruitment company who I went to find a job told me that I should stay with them and work in recruitment, which actually ended up being a great journey for me, because that's how I got myself involved with MPI, which is how you and I got to know each other, and how you became a massive inspiration to me, being this incredible European in this huge ocean of North American people. And now you're still that person. So yeah, that's where the MPI journey came from. And for those of you who are involved, you'll know me from that, and developing my career in leadership within MPI. And yes, that's the sort of story. I fell then into the world of incredible venues. I've had the privilege to work with some of the most iconic venues in the United Kingdom, including the Barbican in London. Mm. Although I do remember coming over to America for the first time to a trade show, and we used to sell the Barbican. And if you don't know it, folks, please Google the Barbican Centre in London. It's an incredible arts institution, the home of the London Symphony Orchestra, et cetera, et cetera. But we used to sell it as, the largest arts sort of venue in London. And I was at an event, I think, with MPI at the Peabody in Orlando. And basically our entire venue could fit into their restrooms. So yeah, we had to change the tack of our sale for that one when we came over to the US. But yeah, privileged to work in unique and unusual venues, and including Twickenham, which is the home of England rugby, and then up in Scotland. And I stayed looking after iconic and unusual venues across Europe as a consultant before I fell into this crazy world of moderating. So yeah, that's sort of the story, I think, in a nutshell.
That's wonderful. And I mean, you're really the poster child of reinventing yourself and doing other things and building on what you've done before. I really like your story. Now, today you've decided to go on your own, to be your own boss, to have your own company. You started obviously doing some consultancy before, and then you started ConferenceEmcees. What is the thinking process, especially with what happened in the last 2 years in the world? What was the thinking process, and what are the lesson you've learned along the way for anybody who would think of starting their own business today?
Lots of gin is probably the shortest answer. No, just kidding. I found my reason when I became a professional conference MC. So I was consulting, and as many folks will know, I've always been interested in moderating and facilitating within the industry. I'm a serial volunteer, and didn't realize it was a career or a profession in any way, shape, or form. People would just say, Sam, we've got a panel discussion. Could you come and host? And of course, I said yes. As I went through the transition into becoming a professional conference MC, facilitator, moderator, it was a really interesting pivot, as you're saying, reinventing. I think life can throw you lemons, and you have to make lemonade. I don't know any other option. That's just my default. And I suddenly realized I got called by an incredible company called Audience, and I'd worked with them with our really good friend Martin Van Nest at the Fresh conferences. And if you haven't seen those guys, you should check them out. They were great, innovative conferences. And they asked if I'd go and facilitate a meeting for one of their pharmaceutical clients. I had the fear of death. I just said, no, I can't do that because it's not in the event industry. The only thing I know about small cell lung cancer is it's really bad. So how can I help them? Because I'm sure that the healthcare professionals know it's really bad. And they were pushing me until they convinced me. And maybe that was something to do with the fact that they were actually going to pay me. That I started this journey into professional moderating. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's the most incredible high, being part of these incredible conferences and being part of changing behaviors that can really, ultimately save lives or change policy or increase business for organizations. And to play a small part in that is great. And it also lives in my passion of meeting and event design, as you know. Yep. Probably many others I've been harping on about, engaging meetings for so long. I'm almost boring myself about it. We've still got a long way to go. So yeah, SamAllen.com was invented, and I had the privilege of hosting MPI's European Meeting and Events Conference a couple of times, amongst others. It was going super well. I was booked out for the entire year of 2020, first time ever as a small business owner on December the 31st, 2019, sleeping, knowing that there wasn't a cash flow problem. It was a good space. I had an incredible January. I managed to get over to Saudi Arabia to host an event, which was a huge privilege and an incredible shift change in gender, which is, again, gender diversity. It was really important to me. So everything was going super well. I was about to head over to your side of the world and host a really big event in Florida. And then the world, as we all know, turned on its head. And in 3 weeks, I lost every single piece of business that was in the calendar. And again, I don't know if the lemons and lemonade, it's just, there are bills to pay. There wasn't a huge amount of support from the UK government for people like me, sadly. And, you have to sort of figure out, how am I going to survive? And I just have always had that mentality that I just don't intend to survive in this world. I do want to thrive in anything I do. So again, I always seem to be plugging Martin Van Nest. He dropped me a line at the right time. He just started creating an online event design course. And at that point, we were all just figuring out Zoom and not doing a particularly good job of it. And I was still of the ilk that, digital meetings, virtual meetings was just a fad and we couldn't do them well. I'm an in-person, I'm a hands-on, look into the eyeballs of people. But this course really convinced me otherwise. You could, within 4 weeks, I'd learned something. I'd been engaged for quite long periods of time because of how the meeting was designed. I networked. I still got in the naughty corner, Eric. As you know, I like to be in the naughty group at a conference, like the rebels. It used to be the smokers, didn't it? But now it's just the rebels, what we're going to do to change the world. And we still created that little community in this group. And I think that was the thing that, really changed everything for me. I then had the confidence to go and talk to my clients who'd, paid a holding deposit and say, right, come on, let's pivot to virtual.
Right.
Let's do this together. I don't want any more money. I just need to survive, having just a different type of conversation with clients. We all needed to survive. So let's just be really honest. What's in your pot? What's in my pot? What can we do to build out your communities, to create something of value, to have touch points in a time that was so utterly lonely? And that's what we did. So we started building out, the online events with those clients, and it just took off. It was really successful. We found that there's a whole bunch of things that we could do that would create incredible engagement. And I actually had the best year financially I've ever had as a business in the end.
That's wonderful.
Because
and you so much deserve it. Sammy, I was just listening to you. I'm thinking, okay, what am I learning listening to Sammy right now? I'm learning that, first of all, you have to believe in yourself. You have to keep on going. You have to rely on your network and the people around you and people mentor and that are going to inspire you and help you. And I think also very important, especially in a politically correct world, is to face the fact. You called the client and said you were afraid to call them with those who have given a deposit, but you went head on and said, okay, this is the situation, and this is also something else we could be doing. And I'm so glad to hear it was your best year ever.
Until the last year. So, we're going, we're on the roller coaster going up at the moment. But I think honesty, I think being, building those relationships through the pandemic, we reached out, or I reached out to clients, not to get business. It's just, stay in communication, ask how people were feeling, recognizing and bringing the human out. There's a real advantage to the last couple of years in terms of the whole world of Zoom. I know people talk about Zoom fatigue. It frustrates me because it's online event design, lack of fatigue, lack of understanding what people are dealing with at home. And I think there's been some really great stuff that's come out of it. And one of those things is ConferenceEmcees.com. So in August 2020, my goddaughter was born. Her name is Sophia Ava Nunn. She has to always get a little plug, bless her little heart. And I take everything quite seriously. If someone wants me to do a job for them, I do everything to the nth degree. And godmothering is no different, Eric. You're not going to be surprised. I'm going to be the best flipping godmother that exists in the world. And I started looking at her and sort of, I do these little videos for her just because obviously she's so little, she's not going to remember this time of life. So I do these little videos every now and again, Auntie Sam, and trying to explain what I do. And just with that, also that fragility of life, I want her to see me before I'm too further haggard and old and what have you. I want her to see the young,
Sammy,
vibrant
you don't look
Auntie Sam.
110, let me tell you.
It's good makeup. Thanks, Estee Lauder, if you need any advertising. So I looked at her. I also have two young nephews, and I've been passionate about sustainability as well. From long before, it's become a crisis. We've been working, trying to create a positive impact on the planet. And I just looked and just thought, I can't go back to that world. As everyone was talking about coming back to live, and I agree. Coming back to be in a room with people is going to be wonderful and is wonderful. I've had those experiences already. Lucky me. But I thought I can't run the business like I ran it and look at my nephews, my niece, and be genuine about their future. I can't do that. So that's where the idea started mulling around how I could work and grow the business without hurting the planet. And then subsequently from that discussion, trying to work a way of creating a community. So we've all got our cliques, we've all got our communities, but actually as moderators and MCs, we don't sit anywhere. We sit as part of the event production team on site or the event management team. We have our clients, but we are always that lone wolf that when everyone packs up and high fives and goes home, we go home alone. So where do we get that best practice? Where do we get that training? Where do we get that community where we can seek inspiration from people like us? And surprisingly, it didn't exist. There were pockets, you've got the NSA and there's a moderated sort of breakout session and there's a variety of those, but there actually isn't a community for professional conference MCs. And so that was another really, really big trigger. And the last one is experience. As this idea was being mulled around and going from Samme Allen to why not just go large or go home in a pandemic? Because like
absolutely.
Frank said, if you can make it anywhere, but I was thinking if you can make it any time, we might as well try a pandemic to go large. My two barriers of growing a business and Conference MCs wasn't born then, but my two barriers I knew were my self-doubt, my imposter syndrome, which I'm sure pretty much, everybody on this who's listening to this will know or recognize.
I wouldn't say pretty much. I would say absolutely everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that holds us all back. The second thing was, speaking to my consultant who was working with me to help sort of come up with this business plan and business idea, I said sort of laughingly, this was the December, that losing my dad would just cause me to not be able to do anything. And then the worst irony of all, 3 weeks later, my dad passed away very, very suddenly, not of COVID, but during COVID. And my whole world, got extinguished overnight. But randomly or ironically or holistically, I don't know what word you'd use, I was meant to be delivering a leadership conference the following morning after I got the news. And as you can understand, physically, emotionally, there was no way I was going to be able to deliver anything. And I called a friend of mine who was a conference MC, and we've made friends and been a community, a little network, a baby network during the pandemic, and connected her in with the client. I mean, I don't recall the conversations, but seemingly that's what I did on that Sunday. And she delivered exceptionally well. We'd done all the prep work. We had all the scripting ready. Another associate of mine, and I start now calling them associates, worked for a major client of ours because it was my dad's funeral, along with other things going on. And so organically, I think probably is the word, this experience and being able to refer and bring other people into situations where it would be good to have more than one host suddenly started happening. So yeah, through that really crazy period of pain and shock and grief, the whole Conference MCs pillars were being built. So it's amazing. So a learning, I suppose, from that is, you have no idea what can come out of grief, and what came out of it was what we've got now.
Fascinating. And again, Sammy, you're demonstrating that the way you react to what's happening in life is just different from one person to the other, and with your grit and your courage, and also the fact that you have built this network, you basically were able to provide the best solution for your client, and obviously doing the right thing for you.
Yeah, and it suddenly, as all of these things started coming together as the months went past, it was like my dad wasn't going to absolutely let me do anything other than, make this happen. My last work, he was so proud of what I was doing. We were doing really well at the beginning of the year. Mm. So, there's a legacy piece there that, and unfortunately, you can turn someone off WhatsApp. So Dad stopped ringing me, but I can't now, he's constantly with me and is that driving force in my soul. And, now Conference MCs, we started building out in the middle of the year last year. It is the first ever global network of professional conference MCs, moderators and facilitators. And our goal is to put the right person for the right client in the right location. So, taking pain points away, but also making sure that we're not part of the carbon problem. We're part of the carbon footprint solution.
Yeah.
So that happened. September, we soft launched. We started talking to clients because, of course, it's quite interesting when you say to a client who asks you to come to host an event in Las Vegas and you live in the UK and you say no. And the first question is, but why? It's like, well, we can't do this anymore. So there's a real education, which is really exciting. Clients are really responsive to this. There's a whole piece around diversity, DE&I. We've got a really incredible collection so far already. We officially launched January this year, and we have 36 associates and growing. And we've got them from San Francisco to Sydney. So I'm really thrilled. I'm really excited. And the community piece is the bit that's, really rewarding. And the clients we're taking a pain point away from people, and that's a really nice spot to be in,
And back up, as you clearly explain. Well, you need somebody on Mars to do SpaceX conference.
I don't know what the carbon measurement, I don't know how we track that.
Exactly. So how do you select the people that are joining your organization? Is there a process to that, a quality control? How do you do that?
Yeah, we have a strong quality control. Having got a background in recruitment, it's proven very useful. So we have an application form that we ask, and it's constantly being refined as we're developing the site. So we ask for quite a lot of information from our hosts to start with. We then run an onboarding program, which consists of sort of a lot of research, checking everybody's digital background, because we know, as Miguel has always said, there's digital breadcrumbs are everywhere. So we make sure that those associates are definitely in line with the same values of our business. We make it's a requirement that our associates will join us on the journey to becoming net carbon zero. We won't have anybody join our community who isn't going to be on that journey with us. And our goal is to support all our associates on that journey. Because if you're an independent and you're trying to earn a living and pay your mortgage, and someone says to you, I've got to fly from Tampa to Sydney, it's very, very difficult and challenging to say no if that's going to be paying your kids' school fees, right? So we want to be in that position to support our community of incredible independent associates to help them track their carbon measurement, their carbon footprint, but also be able to give them opportunities where they don't have to do that big long journey and be away also from family. The world has changed, Eric. Lots of people, whilst they want to travel, they definitely want to get out of the home and they want to connect. Lots of people, the values have changed, and, spending a week away from the kids now is just something that people don't want to do, or whether it's the kids or whether it's family or whether it's the, some of the non-negotiables that we've all created, whether that's exercise, hobbies, whatever it might be. And I think that the ConferenceEmcees model really benefits people in that sort of way. So we vet them. I personally interview and will do that until I'm, physically unable to. I will go through an interview process with our associates as well. And with my experience, and as you said, with our network, it's a very nice and easy way to make sure that these people are right. And, I want to be able to look any of our clients in the eye and say, hand on heart, I would have that person host my annual conference or, host my annual awards ceremony or whatever it might be. So that model's working right now. I think we'll evolve it as we can earn some more money to build out on our technology. We've got ambitious plans. So please come and use us so that we can do that. I'm quite excited about where the AI is going to go in terms of our booking and our search. We're doing fun stuff with geotagging at the moment. So that we can find those closest hosts, but with the right level of experience. So I'm really excited about where it's going to go. Really excited.
That's awesome. Now, I was listening to you. I'm thinking, let me play the devil advocate on one.
You play a devil advocate? No.
For a change. I remember the MPI European Conference in London at the Excel Center. And dating ourselves here. And there was somebody who said, in terms of carbon footprint, I think in the future, if we really want to be serious about it, we should stop having people coming from the other side of the pond, the other side of the Atlantic Ocean to the European conference. And I was thinking, okay, that makes sense, total sense in terms of carbon footprint. But what about the exchange of culture? What about the face-to-face? What about the world and for those who really want to meet other culture and other people? What's your take on that?
I recall those conversations like they were yesterday, which is phenomenal because it was such a long time ago. And that's where ISO 2012 was being invented. And I think everything, as we know, as we had the privilege of actually seeing him in Orlando as Simon Sinek, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure in Orlando in 2010. Everything has to be starting with the why. And I am absolutely an advocate of when people meet in the right environment, great things can happen. I think what corporates are doing, and I think this is right now, is looking at the value that will come from that coming together, whether and where that's best placed. And I think those questions are the ones that we have to ask ourselves. There are plenty of ways, and again, it's about reducing and being thoughtful and considerate to why you're actually going to put that footprint onto the planet. And I think if you've got that output from it. So I'm coming to the United States next month. And so people might say, well, Sam, the whole idea of ConferenceEmcees is that you don't do that. Yes, but I'm not coming over for 2 days to host a conference. I'm actually coming over to meet my associates. So our US community is really active already. So we've got a lot of things that are going to benefit the business and our associates by me being in the same time zones or as nearer the same time zones. We've got some training. We've got some client stuff to do. We've worked out that I can actually do a couple of events for my clients as well. So we call that travel blending. And I think, again, if people started thinking, and we hope at one point, wouldn't it be great that we could have, Eric come to London and host 3 or 4 conferences whilst he's here. He gets to go and see his family. He takes a vacation. He might, get himself involved in a CSR project. And I think that with those right objectives and those right outputs, I'm not saying it's justified. I think we measure and that's how we work. There are going to be times, and I hate to say it, folks, but there are times when we don't have to meet in person. And I think that's now the consideration. I think what we've got to do is ask ourselves those questions. What is the value? What is going to be the outcome? What is that legacy? And you think about this, the spheres that we work in healthcare, and which is my sort of home in terms of hosting, bringing those people together. I think healthcare has to look at, how we do it more holistically. Do we bring people and we have, does the future look like multi-conferences? So you're in the field of anesthesiology, but your specialism also is in hearts. And do we look at greater collaboration within the sector to, bring these events and have maybe big event and then smaller sub events so that you're getting that value of people actually getting on a plane. And we have to recognize that there's inclusivity as well. There are people who can't afford to travel, and we now have this really amazing opportunity to bring, and make our events and meetings more accessible. So I think everything has a value. We come from an organization whose strapline for many years was, when we meet, we change the world. And I think if you're looking at those outcomes and outputs and they justify, that coming together, whether it's in a certain location, then I think it's important that we recognize that is right. And we are human creatures and we are social. So yeah, I think that blend, and I'm excited to see how that blend pans out. I think at the moment, everybody's desperate to come out and get into a meeting room and shake hands and clink glasses. I think that's the thing I miss the most, is being able to cheers a wine glass with you and actually hear that sound and look into your eyes and enjoy that first glass of wine. And I think we're all desperate for that. But I also think that will, and why not? We have been socially deprived for 2 years and it's still happening. So yeah, I think there'll be some more consideration of where we meet, how we meet, what we do when we're in that destination. And I'm super excited about where it's going to go.
Awesome. Thanks, Sammy. And I wouldn't want to end this conversation before asking you about being a woman in the industry, being a woman business owner. You told me that you've met amazing, inspiring women the last 2 years. Thanks also, like the good thing, bad thing, you never know. Maybe you would not have connected the same way if it wasn't for the pandemic. I remember all the efforts we did in the past when, talking about, there is so many different leadership role and 80% of women in the industry, but mainly men having those leadership roles. How do you see this changing or not? And what are your advice for men in this industry towards women, but also, and more importantly, as a father of 3 daughters, for women in their future?
I have seen a change, which is very exciting. I was actually at an event on International Women's Day on the 8th of March, which was celebrating 50 agency leaders, women leaders. And if you'd tried to create that event 10 years ago, you might have got 3, 5 leaders, MDs, CEOs, business owners who are women in the field of event agencies, so sort of third-party event production, event management agencies. That was a very exciting room to be in, and was really an interesting experience being in a room full of these incredible business owners who've gone through also the challenging times that they have. I think the advice is not for men. I think it's for everybody. And, again, been harping on about this for a long time, is that I'm not a fan of really pushing the all-female thing, because that doesn't work either. And I think I think there's organizations that do this, and I think that's wrong too. I think that if we don't bring everybody to the table, and it's not just about male, female, it's about creed and color and ethnicity and sexual orientation. If we don't bring everybody to the table, we can't succeed. And that's fact. We've got, countless reports from people like KPMG and McKinsey's, who've been telling us, if we all want to run effective businesses, we need to be a lot more inclusive. So I think I would say to the women out there, first thing is champion other women, not pat people on the back and give them a like on LinkedIn. Actually do something. And we used to be like this when we talked in MPI about connecting businesses. Right. I think women now need to get smarter. It's not a case of just saying, I've linked in with that great female. If you want to connect in with me, tell me how I can help make you more successful, and let me do that. And that to me is a big action point for 2022, is championing these women who are going through some incredibly difficult times. But at the same token, making sure that we stay inclusive with our men, our menfolk, our leaders who are men as well. We've got a lot to learn from each other. I think that, open the door and start talking, and start, not paying the lip service, actually paying a little bit of the action. What can we do together that is going to be better than doing it apart? So I don't want to see that divide. I want to see, leadership become a lot more diverse and a lot more action orientated. What can we do that actually is a strength by, being a female? What are the connections, or who are the connections that we've got that can create different layers and create different value? So I think, let's try and focus on that inclusivity piece. And I think, again, the future is bright. And yes, there are, and if you want to list, connect in with me, because there are some phenomenal women out there who have created small businesses, and I reckon I'll give you a list of them as well. I'm sure you've interviewed half of them. And I'm inspired. And I think, I think we're in a world now where we do want to work with each other, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to collaborate and make the world a better place for everybody, and especially my nieces, nephews, and goddaughters. So whoever you are, let's talk.
Nice. And how do people get in touch with you?
Well, you can ring the doorbell. It's a very nice. I live in a new house. Honestly, I'm totally in love with my doorbell. I haven't had one in years, and I almost want to just go out and ring it so that you can hear it. It's so grown up. Face to face, if you're in the UK or Spain, I'm living across the two at the moment. Please connect in with me if you're in and around Chicago at the beginning of May, because I'll be over and spending some time in that beautiful city. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only one who spells Samme, Samme. You won't find another Samme Allen, which I'm sure most people will be grateful for. So connect with me on LinkedIn or simply sam@conferenceemcees.com.
Awesome. Sammy, last question. When we next meet face to face with a glass of champagne, what are we going to celebrate?
Oh, I think the first one won't touch the size, Eric. But I think what will happen first is we'll put the champagne down and have the biggest hug possible. And it'll be one of those really long, it will last. It won't just be that little short naff hug. It will be an incredibly long hug. Probably some tears because we've both had some difficult experiences, as everyone else has, but shared experiences. Then we will celebrate the future, the future that we're building for your daughters, my family, for the rest of the people around, and success and collaboration of small business owners. You've been championing this for years, and I think this stuff is coming into fruition. I think we are the future. We are the problem solvers. I think we, along with, scientists, will be the people who are the change makers, and long may we continue these collaborations and get stronger as a real united force across the world.
I'll share to that. And as they say on the other side of in offshore Europe, to the Queen.
And congratulations to the Queen, 70 years. I mean, if we can manage half of that, we'd be grateful, wouldn't we? So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Sammy, for sharing your story with us. Keep on thriving. It's very inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please follow me on LinkedIn or join my Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.